Let me first give a very tight background about S20. So S20 is Science 20, and the scientists or the representatives of science academies of 20 countries participate in this process. Now this S20 will run through 5 different meetings. This is the first meeting. This is the first meeting which is, it brings all the themes of science that we are discussing together in one place. So that there was discussion about the overarching theme of S20, which is made by India. So you see, so it is India-centric. It takes into account the developmental needs of the country through science and technology. So I will tell you what those themes are. The overarching theme is how to use disruptive science for sustainability. So there are 2 important concepts. Disruptive science, which means we all know about artificial intelligence. We know new technologies like quantum technologies are coming up. There are all these things that are coming now very quickly, and these are called disruptive science, which means something very new, which would create something very new kind of solution, maybe to old problems, maybe to new problems. And so this disruptive science, how can it be used for sustainable development? That is the overall theme on which all these representatives of 20 countries deliberate in meetings like this. They will also write to us, and then there would be reports which are produced based on these discussions. Policy papers are produced based on these discussions, and these policy papers are for policy makers, meaning how can we leverage science for national development, not only of India, but all these 20 countries which make G20. G20, as you know, is among the most powerful groupings in the world. So most of the wealth, most of the development, most of the commerce, most of the economic impact is felt through these 20 countries which are called G20. So it is a very, very important grouping. And so the deliberations that happen here in using science and technology for development would be of great use. Because also it comes from different inputs, different insights, different perspectives, both of countries like India and Brazil and China, as well as countries like United Kingdom, USA, all of those, European Union, right? It's a very balanced perspective about what is happening in the world and how do we use science for our progress. The 3 sub-themes on which each of the sub-theme will have one meeting, okay, one conference like this in different places. So these 3 themes are, one is universal holistic health. Universal means it is inclusive, which means it should be reaching the last person everywhere, right? So it is universal, it's not only meant for few people, rich, poor, whatever. Holistic means it is not only health in the hospital. Okay, health in hospital is one kind of thing, but holistic health means it also includes well-being, it includes food, it includes diet, it includes living style, lifestyle. It also includes maybe yoga, meditation, all of that. It also includes traditional wisdom, it includes Ayurveda, naturopathy, and similarly traditional systems of knowledge, let's say in South Korea, traditional systems of knowledge in China and other countries. So all of that traditional wisdom for health and well-being has to be leveraged, so that health is not just become a subject of only disease, but not just keeping a good health. That is the target. Second thing that was discussed, and which will again have a meeting, is connecting science to society. It means, sometimes we think of science is something scientists do in their lab, and how does society connect with it? How does society benefit from it? And how do we actually do that? So what is the process by which science reaches the society and helps them, right? So this is another theme. And the third theme, the clean energy for greener future is the theme, but clean energy for greener future, but in an inclusive manner. which means, you see, everything we are talking here are the global problems. They are not only related to India. If you look at sustainability, climate change, this is a global problem. It cannot be solved by a single country. That is why G20 platform is so important, that we have to work together in order to solve these problems, right? So the cleaner energy for greener future, but inclusive way, which means, you know, some countries, of course, may consume a lot of energy. Some countries like India consume very little energy. But we know that development of a nation, of a society is tied with the amount of energy that we consume. So how do we have responsible energy consumption but with sustainability? So this is a very big challenge, that we don't want to pollute atmosphere, we don't want climate change, we don't want carbon emission, right? But how do we then consume more while having sustainability? Okay, so in this meeting, we know that representatives of 10 countries had participated, and others will also give their inputs by different means, emails and Zoom webinars and everything that will happen. And many of them will come for the subsequent meetings that would happen. 4 more meetings are going to happen, which will consider these 3 themes, right, in very great detail. And then there would be a roadmap and also map for actions which are to be undertaken based on all the deliberations, based on all this experience, based on all this wisdom and information. So we translate that into action. Different countries will translate in action in different ways, right? And so here is we are making a roadmap of how to use science for these 3 critical things for the well-being of a nation. Yeah, so indeed this was initiated in 2017 in Germany, S20, and this is one of the very purposeful, very important engagement group. Because you see, what can be more important than science for future, for securing a future for society which is prosperous, which has economic growth, but at the same time the quality of life and happiness. So all of that is possible only through science. I mean, there is no other vehicle by which that this would be achieved. So therefore, it is a very, very important group. The reports which have been produced at the end of these deliberations, starting from the time of Germany, they are available to policymakers. And they have indeed been shared, whether it is politicians, whether it is people who govern, people who make policies. For example, when we make policy for science, technology and innovation in the country, many of these deliberations which are relevant to India will be factored in, and similarly other countries take what is relevant for them from these reports. And not everything may be applicable to every single country, but for example, to give you an idea, let's say we talk about disruptive technology like Industry 4.0 and artificial intelligence. Now, see, some countries may not have a lot of young people, so they need machines which think and do work to replace people. But our problem is different. Our problem is not that we want to replace people. In fact, we want to be able to deliver those things we cannot deliver now through these technologies. To give you an idea, let's say we may not have as many doctors who are serving in rural sector, right? But through this technology, artificial intelligence and diagnosis, we can actually do remote diagnosis and without a doctor. So therefore, this actually then is able to serve people that we are not able to serve now. Idea is not to replace people, right? So therefore, same technology can be used differently in different countries depending on their needs. If a country doesn't have people, it has to use machines. But our problem is basically do more. We have people, but do more which you are not able to do earlier with the new technology. And so this requires some thinking which is nation-centric together with technology. Technology, yeah, so that's right. So it is indeed, to give you answer to your question, that it has been found very useful in our policy deliberations in making new schemes in science and technology. I was earlier also secretary to the Government of India, heading its Department of Science and Technology for 7 years. So I know that these deliberations which produce these reports are very useful in making our own schemes, thinking about our problems and how we can use science for development. And this will continue to happen. So when we discuss the overall theme is a disruptive science for sustainability. That is the overarching theme, right? Then the three sub-themes are related to clean energy for greener and inclusive future. Then there is universal and holistic health, and then connecting science to society. This is very critical because, everybody is thinking science, people study science and they do science or something. But, everybody is like scientific temper, science communication, for people to understand the value of science, but also science solving societal problems, which may again be different in different nations.
Any recommendation or report that has emerged out of this meeting, today's meeting?
Report will evolve. There is a base report. I mean, it was made by India because it was made by India. Now, this report which we have now is a base report which is made by India to introduce these topics to G20. Now, throughout this year until July of this year, when we have the last meeting, all this report will keep evolving with different inputs. So the final report will only come after July, right? So the report we have, like I said, there's only India's view. Now all these, inputs will come from all the 20 countries. Then, it will be full report.
What are the broad areas where this?
The broad areas.
Giving a push.
Yeah, exactly. So the broad areas are, like I said, the one is universal and holistic health. Universal means all-inclusive, and holistic means not only hospital stay. Okay. Now, probably what you're asking is, what is the action point? So, action point comes after we have deliberated the entire agenda. What I said is, today is setting up the stage. Okay, this is giving initial views of the member countries about each of these themes. First, there would be a vision, a concept paper in each of these themes by end of July. So, I mean, after everything is concluded, right? After that, there would be a roadmap for action and guidelines for action, right? Which means who may do what, with what partnership, what does it require, does it need a law, does it require a policy, does it require rules and regulations, does it require regulation. You see, a lot of disruptive technologies, we don't understand them very well right now. Right? What would be the impact of artificial intelligence? I don't know how many of you know this ChatGPT. You see, it can write all essays. Okay, a high school student don't need to write anything anymore. So you just give the theme, and it has access to all the knowledge in that area around the world. It can make its own sentences. So it can write a very good essay on any topic in this whole world in 2 seconds. It can write poems, fairly good poems. You just give a theme, it will write a poem. It will write a book, it will write a scientific paper, anything. And this is only going to get better, right? Now question is, what would be the impact of this on people, on their skills, on the society, on education, on research, everything, right? So this is what we call disruptive technologies. If you tell the theme, it will paint a very good art picture, right? In fact, in one of the international exhibitions of art, it was the computer that won the first prize. Okay, so if you give the theme, it will paint a picture. You can even specify the style. Do you want impressionist painting? Do you want expressionist painting? Realism, cubism, what do you want, right? It will, all these disruptive technologies will become very good. In fact, at some point we would have to think about, well, how do humans compete with these technologies? So it requires deep thinking now. And you see what happens, technologies, they are called exponential, means they are changing very fast. But human mind and its capacity to absorb changes is very small. Okay, so the way I say it, human mind, it changes linearly with a small slope. Okay, incremental, 5% hoga increase, something 2%, right? But exponential technologies, till 2 years ago, nobody knew ChatGPT. In 2 years, I mean, it can write best of essays and poems on any topic, right? You try it out, you will be amazed, you will be totally shocked. So, I mean, you may start asking, look, what happens to journalism as practiced today? What happens to literature as practiced today? All of that are going to undergo disruptive changes. Understanding of these changes that are brought about by technology and be prepared for them as a society, as a nation, so that our skills do not become outdated. Our jobs are created and that more people are served by that, by machine, instead of machine replacing people. So I think these are the important aspects and all of these themes are proposed by India. So whoever is the leader of G20 that particular year, we have to propose the themes that would be discussed all through the year here. And so we have proposed these 3 themes which find favor with all the G20 countries, and they are all very keen to discuss these themes, come up with philosophy, vision, policies, and then action map with that.
Has management of COVID come into the deliberations?
No, that was actually discussed in the last 2 S20. The last 2 S20, the last S20 was Indonesia, and so they were obviously, there was the most burning topic. But now we have come out of COVID, and anyways discussed at great length in the last 2 years. So now we are discussing holistic health, right? Holistic health means for all of our citizens, what is it, how the lifestyle and all these things, how we can maintain good health, right? And not just be dependent only on hospital, right? So a lot of this is traditional wisdom, a lot of this is lifestyle choices and all of that. So all this related to science, okay? Everything related to science, whether it's yoga, meditation, diet, and other lifestyle choices, as well as alternate systems of medicine and well-being. So it's not only medicine, it's not just cure, but also prevention, right? Both are equally important. We may have a lot of burden of cure if we don't take care of prevention, right? So, so this is holistic health.
What has India adopted from the previous
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Anything specific?
Yeah, I mean in science 20. Yeah, so there are many different things, and this policy on science, technology and innovation would be coming out soon. The draft for it you can already find on the website. And so many elements in there, they come from such kind of meetings. In fact, for this policy, more than 1 lakh people were consulted. So this is a process of consultation in which you have many stakeholders of science. They say the inputs from G20 would be one. There may be inputs from G7. There would be inputs from BRICS. There would be many multi-dimensional inputs. Many of those inputs would be similar. Some may be different. Some may be more relevant for us. Some may not be, right? So this is an ongoing consultative process that happens between different countries. When are we? Report. So report, because last meeting would be end of July. Okay, so then give it couple more months to consolidate everything. Also, it has to be circulated to all the member countries for their remarks and observations. So once they all approve it, then it becomes a document. So I would imagine certainly before the end of this year. See, the new presidency, next presidency would be Brazil. So new presidency happens on 1st of December every year. So before that, this report should be final.
Talking about this holistic health.
Talking about?
Holistic health.
Yeah.
How does our Ayurveda,
Yeah.
how does it figure into this? How are we planning to promote this?
It figures in because you see, the first thing is that nothing in knowledge is fossilized. I mean, it's not fossilized, it's not final. So just like there is continuous research in modern medicine, there also has to be continuous scientific research in the other alternative systems of medicine, whether it's naturopathy, yoga, meditation, all of those things. So science plays an important role. Otherwise, this knowledge is lost. You may start saying that same thing cures everything, right? So one has to scientifically examine each of these things and then say, look, what is it that really works? So that people are more confident that this stuff works, right? So just as there is research in modern medicine, there is also the science-based research in all of these parallel systems would be very helpful, is very helpful. Okay, a lot of it is going on, more can be launched, right? So one uses the modern methods of science, but to examine the old approaches, the traditional wisdom with that, right? So this is about well-being and so on. Yeah. Science is the only thing that is going to solve our problems of the future. And it is not deep science I'm talking about. I'm not saying everybody should know science. I'm not saying that at all. Okay. What I'm saying is to have, some stake in science and thinking rational and have some logical way of thinking, and to have some, what is called scientific temper. Okay, India's constitution is the only one which says that this is the fundamental duty of a citizen to inculcate scientific temper. It is such a, such a unique thing in any constitution, right?
So only the member countries or some non-member countries, delegates from non-member countries?
No, it is all G20.
It's only G20?
G20, yeah.
And from international organizations, delegates from member countries?
So EU has one representative, even though it represents itself several countries.
What will be the total number of delegates who attended?
There are 17. 17. Yeah. So financial issue after Corona is there, certainly. But you see, even how did we deal with Corona? It's through science, right? Whether it's and very interestingly, our scientists actually delivered in very short time. Don't forget, when the virus hit here, there were no ventilators, there were no N95 masks, there were no PPEs, there were no diagnostics, there were no vaccinations, right? It hit us totally unprepared. But within 2 to 4 months, everything was done by our scientists. So, which was really a record. It has never happened before, So, yeah. And so economic recovery is also depends on science. So while it is true that we lost a lot of time and, economic damage was there, how do you recover without technology? You cannot. So point is, one should not be, what you have to tell young people today, don't be afraid of science. The point is, be excited about science. One doesn't have to, not everybody has to know theory of relativity or something. That's not the point. The point is that people have faith in using science to solve problems instead of being afraid of it or saying, oh, no, I'm not, no, I don't understand. Right? Okay, so thanks.